proud we were when those towers were built, with foundations strong and sure. Under those towers a spring was buried, filled with chaos and fury so pure. A battle raging so strong and silent, and the people without a clue. Hidden away within isolated bubbles, so far away from the world and all of its troubles. The earth began to rumble, the ground began to shake, while foundations began to crumble and those towers fell to the floor. Under the foundations we found two enemies, battling one another. Each burning with hatred, neither more furious than the other. Battling over the spring, neither wishing the bloodshed to end. Though if the bloodshed ends, the earth will no longer rumble, the ground will no longer shake, and the towers will no longer fall. Brainwashed with propaganda, listening to stories that are told, boys and girls wish to adventure. Glossy-eyed, young and wanting to shoot a gun, while playing with black powder. Searching for adventure, fortune and fame, they travel to far-off lands. Mystery and adventure is all they see, yet, the more that is seen the more they want and more will be revealed. So sail across to that faraway land, map the skies as they go. The young should create, not destroy, or be hypnotized and mesmerized either. Kids though will see, what they only wish to see. When they go just over that hill, they will see what was once golden orchards. Pastures once filled with rose petals, now nothing but scorched land. Looking towards the horizon they will speak of way back when, remembering how it used to be. When grass grew green and we were truly free, while in the back of their minds lay all the shame. What they truly became, the day they decided what they had to become. The lies they fell for and the leaders they followed, who selected only the best of the stock. Those who decided who shall live and who shall die.
History has shown that since the beginning of time, we humans have tried to control and manipulate nature. We wish not only to control it, but also bend it to our will. Our obsession with control has driven us to where we are now. Some would call this progress, but some would call it our destruction. As the Roman Empire came into being, the creation of glass itself was born. From the glass, all things began to thrive, and science as we know it emerged. The secrets of the craft were hidden among kings, queens, and nobles for centuries to come. From Constantine to the Crusaders up until the Age of Enlightenment, empires were built from the secrets they possessed, yet these same empires also fell by the wayside as time passed. Not all of the power and influence they possessed could save them in the end. Rome was abandoned by Constantine for the beauty of his Byzantine Empire. From Rome to Constantinople, from Constantinople to Venice, glass soon could not keep its secret from the rest of the world. And the spread of its marvel began. Scholars at one time would use glass bowls filled with water in order to observe the behaviors of light. First there were little bottles of perfume, then chandeliers. Finally came the microscope and telescope. The world was amazed by what progress possessed. We still are today, but what was the cost? Today we have scientists that suggest we are no more than a computer simulation. Just as Aristotle used glass to determine the secrets of perception, we are opening our consciousness to the unknown. genes that are groomed by generations of breeding passed down from our forefathers before us, picking the best of the stock in order to perpetuate the breed and further our immortality. The Greeks would travel abroad in search for the meaning of life, taking them to far off lands. Scholars, philosophers, and adventurers would travel to Egypt, searching out its deepest secrets. On their journey, they eventually encountered the stories of Aphrodite and her indiscretions, the rose given to Hippocrates and delivered to him by Eros, Aphrodite's son, as a gift for his silence concerning those indiscretions. Silence is golden, just as it is also consent. Ignorance is also bliss, and we turn a blind eye in order to protect what we feel is ours. King Louis VII's entire family died from smallpox. His brother died as a baby because the doctors performed bloodletting. If it wasn't for King Louis VII's governess refusing to allow the procedure, he would have died as well. Let us not talk about this king, though, especially when it comes to secrets. Kings and queens would breed according to stock. They needed an heir to carry on the family name, thereby keeping power within their fold. Henry VIII was on a deadline for a son and produced only a daughter that could take his throne in the end. At the early age of 11, King Louis VII was introduced to his betrothed wife-to-be. The royal family wished for him to be married to his cousin. He wasn't really interested, though, considering she was only 11 and his bride-to-be was but 3. So they hurried off and found a Polish princess to take his cousin's place, who was old enough to conceive. An unquenchable thirst was born, and secrets of illegitimate children were hidden from his subjects. What would the people say? Traditions carry on from each generation, it seems, and we have an explanation for it according to the scientific method. Let's talk about King James as well, and the misconceptions concerning his life. The idea that playhouses in London were the place to be during that era was far from the truth. Reprobates and homosexuals who practiced beastly things gathered in those places. King James frequented there often in search of male lovers, and nobody said a word. To this day, there are even conspiracies concerning Shakespeare, wondering if he ever really existed. Was he actually just a pen name for a person of royalty or someone of high standing wishing to stay anonymous? Nobody of reputable background would have ever been caught in such places like the playhouses in London. The things that Shakespeare wrote about were well beyond his reach. He knew about the law and was a writer with only a 7th grade education. He could have never gained such information. The Order of the Golden Fleece and its dirty little secrets. Secrets of the confessional. What was said and done in the banquet room stayed in the banquet rooms. Generations of noble families were held as political prisoners in order to uphold the king's order. People would flee from their homes, exiled to far-off lands, away from the church. Meaningless wars were fought for land and treaties, most without reward for either the people or their kings. Tributes had to be paid and hostages taken, because if not, then conspiracies were formed. Referendums and counter-referendums were made in order to preserve nobility. Out of all this secret societies, such as the Freemasonry, the Rosicrucian, and other Hermetic groups were formed. This, of course, resulted from years of persecution from the Golden Fleece and other secret courts. These courts held trials by oath to determine guilt or innocence. The penalty for any crime that a person was accused of was death. Secret handshakes, meetings among members, and judgment was given only by the accused peers, was the law of the land. If you weren't a member of that group, you better know someone who was. Not knowing the right people would have certainly been the death of you. You then either ran for your life or you were hung from the nearest tree because there weren't any jail time after guilt was established. Some of the greatest lies ever told to man are obvious, and yet we look away from the truth. We accept the lies told to us, instead of understanding that these are not fact but lies. First, we were led to believe that the earth was flat. Then we were taught that everyone thought that the earth was flat. Historically, though, this is far from the truth and inaccurate. Not all societies and civilizations believe this to be true. There are plenty of historical facts that state otherwise, though we have been fooled into believing the lie. While civilizations formed and folklore began to dominate societies within these civilizations, pockets of individuals also studied the skies. When villagers feared curses and sacrificed their children to gods, these few individuals calculated the full circle of the equinox around the ecliptic. They understood the returning of the planets and the circle of the same. The great year, perfect year, the platonic year, or whatever you would wish to call it. They understood the gyration of the axis and the equinox procession. Without shame, most people are cowards, filled with greed and vanity, always competing for resources, power, and notoriety. In order to gain these things, it's required that the masses must be controlled and influenced. In order to acquire resources, blood has to be spilled, and our young have to be sacrificed for the greater good. A life for a life, for the sake of the spring. Blood sacrificed in order for the water to flow.